Hello everybody, Carol Garrison with Carol's Creative Escape. It's time for another Make It Monday. Today is February 12th, and like I said, it's a Make It Monday with Carol Garrison of Carol's Creative Escape. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy week, even though it's only a Monday, to watch this video, whether you're watching it live or on replay. I appreciate it either way. Tonight, I am going to share with you actually a gift card holder. Not a gift card holder, but note cards and a folder that you can use. Hey, Brandy, thanks for joining. To gift to somebody. Maybe somebody's done something great for you and you want to just give them a little thank you note or something like that. So I'm going to show you how to make four note cards as well as a holder for them that would be suitable for gifting. Hope everybody's had a great week. I apologize for not being here last week. We got hit with something at our house and we're laying pretty low. Well into last week, but both of us are on the mend at this point, and so we are very relieved to have that. And amongst all of that, I also was able to find a new job, so if all goes as planned, I'll be starting that on Monday, and we'll just see where the week takes us. I think tonight's project is going to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera over, and let's go ahead and get started right away. On the project that we're working on here. Just one moment. You don't need to see my ceiling. There we go. Make sure I'm in the right spot on my Facebook page. I never know. There we go, because I can see my sweater. All right. Let me go ahead and get my phone plugged in too, just so I don't have to worry about running out of power. And we'll do a little straightening, add some more light, and get rid of my lovely little camera stand here in the background. And let's jump in and get started. Now tonight, I am featuring the Flight and Airy Designer Series paper. And this is one of those items that you can get for free right now during Celebration. It's from the Celebration catalog on page 6. And I'm telling you right now, you guys need to go look at your catalog and figure out $50 worth of supplies that you can buy just so you can get this paper. It is so pretty. I honestly wasn't going to initially get this paper because I just wasn't sure, and then I had a customer get it and I got to see it, and then I was actually helping somebody prep for a class, and part of that class was using this designer series paper. And you guys, it is so pretty. You absolutely have to place a $50 order with your demonstrator just to get this paper. Here is, well, let me give you the colors first. It's just so springy. It is Boho Blue, Bubble Bath, Calypso Coral, Crumb Cake, Daffodil Delight, Flirty Flamingo, Fresh Freesia, Garden Green, Lost Lagoon, Misty Moonlight, Pecan Pie, and Soft Seafoam. And it just is so pretty. So we've got this size. This works great for punching out with a circle punch or dies that you might have. And then we've got this one. I fussy cut several of these out for our project tonight, and it didn't take very long. And I was trying to count how many different birds there are on here, and I gave up. Only because sometimes it's a very similar bird, but facing the other direction. You know, like these two are very similar. So I'm not even sure how many birds you can get off of this, but it is gorgeous, and they're very easy to fussy cut, especially these ones that don't have any feet to work around. And then we've got this beautiful floral. Again, these work really well with some of our dies or circle punches. The project that I was helping somebody put together used these, this paper and dies to die cut that out. And this one is so lovely. This is what we're using in our project today. I just love all the different colors of the flowers. Pretty much brings in, I think, all of the colors that I read off. Excuse me. And again, this one, you could do even a larger circle or another circle die. It's just so pretty. Maybe I'm even though we haven't had a bad winter, maybe I'm just anxious for spring to come. I don't know. And here's really where that garden green is showing through. But these little watercolor birds are so pretty. And then on the back side, you've just got, you know, kind of a Lost Lagoon leaf pattern. And it's just, I can't describe to you how pretty this paper is. This looks like it could almost be wallpaper. Imagine if you had a dollhouse or something like that. A great background too for scrapbooking perhaps. This is just an all over in the pink and purple tones. And then we've got another one. It's a slightly smaller floral pattern than this one that I just showed you. So again, oh, just so pretty. So pretty. And then we've got an all over with the blue tones. And here's your pecan pie coming in. Again, you can get this free with a $50 order. So if you haven't ordered yet, under celebration, and the only item you get is something that costs $50 just so you can get the Flight and Airy Designer Series paper, it'll be worth it, and I promise you won't regret it. All right, let me show you the project that we're going to work on today. And then I'm going to just walk you right through the process of making it. So I've got this little book, for lack of a better word, that I've created. And I got the layout for this book from a demonstrator from the UK. Her website is Tammy Stampin Magic. I couldn't find her last name, so I apologize for that. But Tammy Stampin Magic. And I've put this beautiful designer paper on the back, along the spine, and on the front. I've used the Layering Leaves stamp set just to create the hello. And again, this stamp set was designed by Rachel Tessman, who's a $1 million seller and happens to be part of the group that I'm part of. So kind of cool. And then we just open it up, and on one side, I've got 4 note card size envelopes, and on the other side, we've made 4 note cards. They're all the same, so it's a fairly quick project. A little bit of embossing on the folder. I'm sorry, my light appears to be very dark in here today. I'm going to try to brighten it up just a little bit. An embossing folder or die cut popping up just that little circle of Designer Series paper. And I use the Just a Note sentiment, which comes from the Go-To Greetings. Nothing on the inside. It's just a little note card. So I'm featuring the colors of Boho Blue, Flirty Flamingo, Fresh Freesia, and Bubble Bath on my cards. And it just was so versatile. So I don't want to, there's the cute little birdies that I cut out. Little pocket that those fit into. And then it just ties up. So without further ado, let's learn how to make this cute little card. So I did pre-cut most of my paper, but not everything. And I have made 3 of the 4 cards, because once I show you how to make them, you don't need me to show you how to make all 4. But we will walk through one of them. Those are our envelopes. And I am just using the note cards that are available in the Stampin' Up! Annual Catalog. They're the basic white note cards. The first thing that you will need, let me clear some of this stuff out so I'm not confusing you, is a piece of cardstock. And this cardstock measures 9 by 5.5. Okay. And I'm going to show you how to score this, but it's going to be scored at 4 and 5 inches. And then you need another piece, and I just used all the same color, but if you wanted to switch it up, you certainly could do that. This is 9 1/4 by 2 3/4, and we're going to be scoring this one at 3/4, 4 3/8, 5 1/8, and 8 3/4 this way. We'll rotate it and then do 3/4 on this way for scoring. I will repeat these measurements again, and I'll probably post them in a comment too, because there's a lot of scoring notation to make. And then you need another piece that measures 11 by 1 inch, and that's to hold the envelopes in. And then for the card front, that colored piece of construction or of cardstock, this measures 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. And then I just used a scrap of basic white cardstock for this, and a scrap of basic white cardstock for the hello sentiment on the front. So before we get any further, the other piece of paper that you need is a designer series paper, and this measures 5 1/4, and my piece is just, I believe it's 12 inches across. Nope, it's actually 11 1/4. I must have used this for something else. But I deliberately didn't cut this piece because I want to show you how to cut it. When I was putting this together, my first thought was, shoot, I wish I would have run these all together so that they lined up. And so I'm going to show you how to do that now, so that when you put your book together, all the cuts will line up on this paper. So we're going to start with the back side and slide our designer series paper through. And so let me get my trimmer here. And I already have it measured at 5 1/4. So then I'm going to cut my first piece at, and I just want to double check so that I don't screw it up. Yep, my first piece I'm cutting at 3 3/4. This is the back side of the book, and it's really important that you do cut it starting with your back piece, because that's what's going to keep things in order. And then the next piece that I need to cut is for the spine, and that is a 1 inch mark. So we're going to cut this next piece at 3/4 of an inch. And then our last piece, we're going to cut again at 3 3/4. And that'll be for the front of our book. And then we need to cut one more piece at 3/4 of an inch, because that is the piece that's going to go on the band that holds our envelopes in place. And I apologize if you can hear a little bouncing noise from up above. I think the dog has his rubber ball in our office space where my husband's doing some work, and is dropping it on the floor in the hopes that he might throw it. All right, then the next thing we need to do is work on our scoring. And so I've got my scoring tool here, and I've marked all but one of my score lines because I can't get two pegs that close together. And you'll notice I've got some that are the brown color, and then some that are blue. I've actually have misplaced some of these pegs, and I was able to order more. But in between the time that Stampin' Up came out with these as extra items I could order, the Country Hive also did some 3D printing of these. And so if you are short, they are now available through Stampin' Up, I believe, still. Otherwise, the Country Hive is an option for those as well. So I'm going to grab this larger piece of paper, and this one we're just going to score at 4 inches and at 5 inches. So that's why I am using my two different colors, because it just helps me remember which piece goes with which. Okay, so there's my 4-inch score line and my 5-inch score line. That's the cover. We're done with that piece. And then we need to take this piece, and this is the one that has a little bit more scoring. Remember, it's 9 1/4 by 2 3/4. And we are going to score this at 3/4 of an inch, at 4 3/8. See, I almost did it under this color, but that blue stood out for me. And then I don't have a peg here, but we're going to score it also at 5 1/8, and then 8 3/4. And then we're just going to rotate it 90 degrees and score it one more time at 3/4. And that's all there is to it. So it's not a difficult thing to score. There's just a lot of measurements. So like I said, I will include those in the comments so that you've got those. All right, then to set this one up, we just need to do a little bit of trimming. And this is on the side that's got that 3/4 inch. We're actually going to angle it and cut right up to where the score lines cross. And I'll snip off that little bit. And then I'm going to come on this little tab and score that, or wedge that. And I like to do this because it just, if your folds are off by just a little bit, just doing these little wedges is enough to get rid of that, any problems you might have with that. Actually, this piece, I lied. We're going to just cut that one off altogether at the score line. Sorry. And then we'll wedge it here. All right, and then we're going to come and we'll wedge it here. And again, it's just a little angle. They don't have to match because it's going to be covered. And we'll snip out that wedge. Repeat. Snip it. And then we'll wedge here and here. And then finally, I'm just going to wedge this corner a little bit too. Okay. And that should be it for all the trimming. So then the next thing we want to do is we'll start by forming our box or the pocket for the cards. And so we're going to take our bone folder and we're just going to fold along all of the score lines, starting with that little flap. You want good crisp edges. And if anybody hasn't watched my videos recently, I'm working on the Glass Mat Studio, which is something that is available to new demonstrators only during the celebration period. And it can be part of your joining gift. You can select, in addition to this, $125 worth of new product for $99. Or you can choose to get I got to do my math here, $155, 125, 30, yeah, $155 worth of product for $99 without the Glass Studio. So it's just a real nice surface to work off of. You've always got a flat surface. It's easy to clean. I love it. So another thing to consider if you've been thinking about becoming a demonstrator, this is a good time to do it. Not only can you get that gorgeous paper after you place a $50 order, but you could also add this Glass Mat Studio as part of your joining kit. And remember, with Stampin' Up, you're never obligated to make another purchase either. So that is, although we'd love for you to stay doing that, that is never something that's required. So now I'm using my tear and tape and I'm putting it on the two tabs as well as this piece. And then I want to just look to see which is going to be, okay. I was looking to see which piece was going to be on top, on the inside. And the reason I was checking for that this way is I want it all to be finished seams on this side as opposed to looking like this on the outside of my pocket. And so I am going to put adhesive on, whoops. Started peeling the adhesive off already, just on this piece. And for me, easiest way when I'm folding boxes like this to make sure I've got everything lined up is to simply fold it flat and do this seam first. And so I'm going to do that and just pull off the backing, and I'll press that down so I've got a good, you know what, it looks like I'm off just a little bit. Let's see if I can peel it off. I might have to put a new piece of tape on here. So, yep, when you're making yours, make sure that you do a better job of lining it up than what I just did. I'm not worried about the tears on the inside because that isn't going to show anyhow. So we'll put some fresh adhesive on here. And I'm going to make sure, I think I had it a little crooked, so I'm just going to make sure I've got it so this piece is lined up with the top here. And now I can fold it over. Okay, it just wasn't lining up right there. So now we've got that fixed. And then I am going to take this tab. Everybody tapes their tabs differently. Some people don't ever tape them. I don't know. I just do. And I'm going to tape. This part gets confusing, and I think I just taped it shut and didn't mean to with that little tab. Nope. Good. All right. So I am going to fold this piece down, which is my big piece that has the adhesive on it. I'm going to fold that tab down onto there. And you do, while you're doing this, you want to keep this as square as possible. So I'm going to fold both those tabs in, and then I'm going to fold this one down. And what that does is give me a finished look inside my box. There's no tabs or anything. It's just that big piece. And I apologize, I may not have had that fully on film. If you have any questions, let me know. And so now I've got this nicely finished box with finished edges on all three sides. And it'll go nicely on the inside here. All right, we can set our box aside. That's what our note cards are going to sit in. And then let's take this piece and we're going to score it again at the 4-inch mark and our 5-inch mark. And that just, sorry, my bone folder is clacking on my glass here. That just gives us this book piece. And before you put your designer series paper on it, you're going to want to add some ribbon. Now, I realized I didn't have any narrow white ribbon. That's what I really wanted to use. So the particular ribbon I'm using today is going to be a retired item. You can use any ribbon that you've got, but I really wanted white and I wanted this width. And so that's what I'm doing. I apologize. I try to always make sure I'm using stuff you can get, but some days it just doesn't work. All right, then I'm just going to eyeball it, or you could use your measuring pieces on here. This is 14, so if we go at roughly 7, I'm going to put a piece of tear and tape here. And I'm not going to the edges because I don't want this to show or be sticky outside of this paper that I'm going to be putting on it. Just in case. It should be covered by the ribbon. But in case it's not, I'm going to tear it off kind of away from the edge. And I am just doing this to hold the ribbon in place that we'll be using to tie our bow with. All right. And I've taken my ribbon and I've just kind of folded it in half to eyeball it. Make sure that it's all going in the same direction. Get an idea where the center is, and that's just going to go right here. And then I'll put some over on the tape, and that should help hold that in place. Okay? And that's just how we get the ribbon in here that we are using to tie our gift holder together with. All right, then we can get on to the decorating part. So we're going to take this designer series paper that we cut, and again I'm just going to review it to double check how my pieces go together, and I'm glad I did because I had them reversed. So this is my back, spine, and front. So we'll set those two aside, and I'm just going to grab my seal and add adhesive. And I am going to run a little bit down, down the side here so that it catches the edge of that ribbon as well. Again, this is my back piece. I'm going to look to see that I have opposite corners even, because if the opposite corners are even, then the other two corners will be even too. All right, so there's the back of my gift card holder, or my note card holder. And then we're going to add this strip, and I am going to go down right to the edge because I don't want that to pop up. And I got some on here. Don't worry about that. When you take the cleaning cloth, that'll come right off. And so again, I'm going to look at opposite corners as I'm setting this up, and if they are even, these two corners should be even as well. That gives us our spine. And then last but not least, we've got the front of our book. Gift card, I don't want to call it a gift card holder, note card holder. And I'll run a piece in the center too. And then again, I'm just going to make sure that opposite corners are even. Try to make sure I've got everything lined up pretty well. And there we go. And we have our book covered. Now, this is such pretty paper that I don't want to cover it up too much, but I do feel like I need to have some kind of sentiment on the front. And so I'm going to use the Hello stamp again from that Layering Leaves stamp set, and my boho blue ink, and I'm just going to stamp a hello. Now with this mat, even though I'm using a photopolymer stamp, I should not need to put that foam piece underneath it. If you are still more comfortable doing that, feel free, but you shouldn't need to do that. That's one of the nice things about this. All right, and I am going to stamp that. Hold it down for just a second or two so that the ink can soak in. And there we go. And as long as I have my ink out, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my just a note that comes from that Go-To Greetings. I'm also using the boho blue for that. That way I just don't have to get the ink back out. And that is just a scrap. So we're going to do that. And then real quick, I am going to wipe off my stamps just so that I'm not sticking my ink or my cards onto inked up stamps. Okay. And so this one, I think I'm just going to put it right there so those cute little birds still show. That's where I was struggling, is I didn't want to cover up this paper because it's so pretty. Okay. There we go with that. Then to do the inside of the card, to attach this box, I'm again using my tear and tape. I really like to use tear and tape anytime I'm doing something that's going to move a lot or that I really want to make sure sticks. This is my favorite tape for doing things like that. If you're a green glue person, go for it. I don't have the patience sometimes for working with that and making sure that it's set up enough that I can stick things on it. So I find that adhesive gives me the quick results for my lack of patience. All right. Then before you attach this, just make sure you've got your paper going the right way. And this is just going to be centered down at the bottom. So it'll be centered left to right. And I'm going to put it about the same distance from the bottom of my card as it is going to be from the sides of the card. It doesn't have to be perfect on that. And then I like to either just use my fingers or that bone folder to make sure that's really adhered. And now we've got our pocket. Now I am using 2 of these birds to decorate this inside piece. If you wanted, you could put more designer series paper here. If you chose to do that, this is going to be 1 3/4 your designer series paper. You'll want it to be about, well, actually, make it 1 5/8, somewhere between 1 5/8 and 1 3/4 by 3 1/4. And that'll fill in that box. But I'm going to use these cute birds that I fussy cut out instead. And I am just putting adhesive on the back of these. And attaching them right to that pocket. Part of the reason I'm doing birds is I couldn't decide which of the designer series patterns I wanted on here. So I thought I'm going to use these birds. And then, because it's me, I'm also going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella to these birds because that's also what I do. And so I'm just brushing it. It gives it just a little sparkle. I don't even know that I'm going to be able to get you to see it on camera, but it adds a little bit of sparkle. If you're trying to come up with things to get to your $50 order, add Wink of Stella. Lately it's been on the low inventory list, but if it is available, just add a brush full of Wink of Stella. It's the easiest way to add a little sparkle to everything without all the glitter. It's, I think, one of my favorite tools. Like I said, I'm not sure that the sparkle is going to show up here. It's just a shimmer. I don't know if I can get it. Maybe if I go under my light a little bit more. Doesn't seem like it, but it's there. And it adds a lot. It really does. Trust me. All right. So now the next thing we're going to do is put together our strip for the envelopes. Now the best thing to do with your envelopes, we need 4 because we're making a total of 4 gift cards, is to stack these up. And then you're going to take the band and go lengthwise. And I like to just eyeball. It doesn't have to be exact again. Kind of eyeball it this way, and then I just flipped it over and kept my envelopes lined up. Whoops. Now look what I did, Carol. All right, we're going to go this. We'll repeat the process. Just eyeball it. Flip it over and fold first one flap and then the other flap over so that they line up. And then I just kind of crease it like that. I don't use my bone folder or anything. And then to make sure that everything sticks and stays together, I am once again going to take just a little piece of tear and tape right at the end of the flap that's going to be on top. And we'll seal it closed just like that. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do is take this last strip of designer series paper, and this was cut at 5 1/4 just because that is what everything else was cut at, but you will end up taking just a little bit off. You want it closer to about 5 inches on this piece. So I kind of wait to do that until I see how my pattern falls out too. And I need to take off about 1/4 of an inch. That way I can trim off a piece that isn't going to miss anything, and it was just white with a little bit of leaf on it. So that works out pretty well. And again, we're just going to run our tape runner right off to the end and right off to the end. When I'm using this mat, and I know I'm going to do adhesive, I'm just going to go off to the side a little bit when I'm running it off. That way I don't have to worry about it having a sticky spot in my work area on the mat. All right. I might still have it a little bit longer, but that's all right. And then we're just going to adhere that. And then to get this piece to stick, we're coming back here with our tear and tape, because again, I want to make sure this is going to stay as the envelopes get slid in and out. You want the belly band tight enough that the envelopes don't slide out, but at the same time not so tight that it causes them to buckle at all, if that makes sense. And then we're just going to center this piece in this area. Just like that. And now our envelopes are here to stay until they get pulled out. All right, and then the next thing that we need to do is make our beautiful card. So we're going to set this aside temporarily, and I'm going to show you real quick how to do the note card. So with our note card, I'm using the pre-cut, pre-scored note cards and coordinating envelopes from the catalog. So I'm not doing any cutting on this. We're just going to burnish that fold. And then I need to prep this piece. So I am using a die called the Everyday, Everyday dies, I believe is what it is. These are from the annual, or not the annual, they are from our new catalog. And yep, it's Everyday Details, excuse me. Those are found on page 28 of the January to April catalog. And they are bundled with this particular set, but honestly, they make a great standalone die as well. So if you aren't interested in this stamp set, just go ahead and you could get the dies. However, if you want to get that beautiful Flight and Airy paper, this bundle, the stamp set and the dies, is priced at $52. So you would have enough in purchases just by getting that bundle to get that paper for free. Just a thought. All right, so I am using a new embossing folder. Again, this is available in the January to April catalog, and it is called, I just need to find it, the embossing folders. It's called something. Actually, I am not. I believe that is in the annual catalog. No, I know where it is. This one is called the Softly Sophisticated embossing folder, and this one you can get along with the Softly Sophisticated stamp set for free if you have a qualifying $100 purchase. So sorry for the confusion on that. And then again, I'm using the Everyday Details dies, and I have just the one die that I need right with me. So let me grab my cut and emboss machine. Today's project is a little bit more involved, but I think it's worth it. I used my top plate for cutting on earlier. Not that it matters a whole lot, but it just gives me a semi-unmarked plate for the top of things. Now, once I have things lined up, I do like to use a little bit of washi tape to hold everything in place. And so I'm just going to put, oh, the other thing I'm going to do, as long as I'm running this through, is I've got that sentiment, the Just-A-Note sentiment, so I'm going to tape that down. And I am using a die from the Something Fancy dies to cut this one out. And I'm just going to line that up. I actually need to reverse so I can get a better sight line on this one. And I need to grab. Now, one thing I have learned with the washi tape is it is helpful to stick it lightly against your jeans or something, some kind of fabric, just to get a little bit of the sticky out before you put it on your cardstock. That way, sometimes the pressure of the cut and emboss machine can really press it down, and I have torn my paper a little bit. So by de-sticking it just a titch, I can avoid that problem. You can also use sticky notes, and that works as well. So we're going to make our plate using the base plate, the insert mat, which just kind of acts as a shim. And then we'll put a clear cutting plate, our dies, and another clear cutting plate, and that creates the sandwich to run things through this machine. All right, we'll get back to that one in just a second. The other thing that I need to do is now run this through to emboss this piece. And so I'm going to get rid of my shim, and I'm going to use, because this is a 3D embossing folder, I only need my base plate and this piece along with my embossing folder. Now, the Stampin' Up side of folders is the one that has the indentation as opposed to the raised part of it. So when I'm die cutting, there's always one edge where the cut kind of goes down, and then the back side where stuff stands up just a little bit. I like to have the downside be my top. And so I want to make sure I'm putting my cardstock in correctly. And then there is this handy dandy line at the bottom of the embossing folder. So I can use that just to make sure that I've got my paper on here straight. That's particularly helpful when we've got a pattern that has a line sort of thing to it. And then when you put this into your cutting machine, make sure that that fold is facing so that it goes in. It saves, it is better for the embossing folders to do it that way, because then you don't risk cutting an edge or anything like that. And again, I'm just gonna run it through with that plate, and then let me move this out of the way. I don't do a lot of embossing and cutting on camera, but every once in a while I think it's good, because if you're new to stamping, maybe you don't do that a lot and you're not sure what I'm talking about. All right, so next I'm going to come back here to this. Now I've got a little smudge on here, and fortunately my cardstock is going to cover that, so I don't have to worry too much about it. The other thing is, when you're die cutting and embossing, it's always best to die cut first and then do the embossing, because if I did the embossing and then went back through and die cut, it's actually going to press down that embossed image. So it protects and makes the embossing part as bold as can be. Now, when you're putting your adhesive on, make sure that you don't cover any of these circles because it'll show through, and we don't want that to happen. I have had it happen on 1 or 2 of the cards that I made earlier, and I was able to use a pokey tool and kind of get it out of the way, but it's a lot easier if you don't have to do that. Okay, and then I am just going to center this on the front of my card, and again I'm looking at opposite corners. I got that opposite corner tip from Jackie Bullheis after watching one of her videos, and that was an aha moment for me. It just made sense, and it works every single time. Okay, now just so that you know, that circle that I've cut out, although I'm not using it on this card, look at this gorgeous circle that you get. And because we've made multiple cards, we've got multiples of these circles that we can add and create on another project. So don't throw those out. If you have a container that you store bits and pieces in to make shaker cards, this is full of them. And so once you knock those out, you could have little bits and pieces to make shaker cards. I'm just going to do a couple of these so that you can see, because they are fairly small, but they would make good pieces for a shaker card. So you could save all of those. They aren't very big. And in case you're wondering, this tool fits into our Picket tool. It's just another set of items that you can get. There's a straight pokey tool, and then there's kind of a weeding type tool that you can get, and I find that works actually kind of well for that sort of poking because it's angled. And then the other end is a rotary, whoops, you just got to make sure you get it in right based on our caps. And then the other end is a rotary cutter that'll kind of create like a sewing line. So that's where I got that. I am not poking everything out because I have a lot of static in my house right now, and it was sticking to everything when I did that earlier. All right, then the next thing we need is the circle of birds that we had punched out earlier. And I just put 3 dimensionals, oops, on the back. I wanted it popped up out of my circle. You could also do kind of a reverse and have a shadow effect by putting this piece up on dimensionals and then just using adhesive and putting this down, so it would actually be that blue layer that pops up, and this would be sunken more like a shadow box. Just something else to try. All right, we've got that, and then here is our sentiment that we die cut. Let's see how well I centered it. Not bad. Whoops. Off to my side, I have a magnet that I'm sticking my dies to, just so I don't lose any on my work surface. Anybody else have that problem? And I'm just popping this one up on dimensionals. But I used a whole sheet of dimensionals. And sticking that on straight there. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is add this, actually it's not the last thing because we'll be putting those on too. Adding a little bow with the white twine. And so I've just got 2 pieces. I didn't even measure these. I just made them what I thought was long enough to make my bow. And then I do have a little bow tire that my dad made for me many years ago. And so I'm using 2 pieces of string or twine because it just gives a fuller bow. And it's kind of the look that I wanted for this card. You could just use 1, but I just used 2 and then do my tying together. And it gives a fuller bow. Oh shoot, I missed one of the pieces on the tails. That's no good. Okay, and now I've got my little bow, and I'm just going to take my non-paper cutting scissors and trim the tails off. Y'all know what I mean by that, right? You never use your paper scissors on fabric or ribbon. You have a separate pair of scissors just for that. Okay, and then I'm just going to grab 2 mini glue dots here. You could get by with 1. I just like to do 2 because I feel like it sticks better. I'm going to kind of crunch that up behind the bow so it doesn't show. Whoops. And I'll put that just kind of right there. And then last but not least, we're just going to add 3 rhinestones to the front of our card. And that's assuming I can find where I put my rhinestones. There they are. Whew. So I'll grab my Picket tool with the putty on the end. And we're just going to lift up. Whoops. I lifted that one up so well, I turned it upside down. We're going to start over. I actually probably had just a little bit too much putty sticking out, and so it kind of overwhelmed it. All right, that worked much better. And I'm just randomly picking up and attaching 3 rhinestones because it seemed like the right number to me. Okay, and now that card is done. And so we've got this beautiful one in the boho blue, flirty flamingo, fresh freesia, and bubble bath. And we've created just a beautiful little Just a Note gift card or note card set to give to somebody for doing something nice to us or birthday gift or whatever. They fit very nicely into the pocket. We've got envelopes for them. You could even stick in for postage stamps or pre-stamp your envelopes if you wanted. If you're feeling super ambitious, go ahead and decorate the flap of the envelope or stamp the envelope, whatever stirs your fancy. And then once you are all done, you just need to tie this. I wish I was better at doing bows on things like this than what I am, but you know, we all got our strengths and we can't be good at everything, right? And then I just pull it out, and I don't trim this. I actually let my bow be pretty long because if somebody's going to be untying this, you don't want to trim it short, and then it would be difficult for them to put a bow onto their project. So here we go. We've got one using Seafoam Green and another one using Fresh Freesia for the folders. And I will post the measurements and the score line pieces for you in the comments so that you've got those. But wouldn't you love to get something like that? And just a quick little note, I just recently sent a couple cards off to some people just because, and I got so much feedback from them, like the day they received it. It's amazing. Even if you just write a note, hey, thinking of you today, hope everything's going okay, take care, and sign your name to it. Just knowing that somebody's thinking about you can make a whole day brightener. So here's a little Just a Note kit to get somebody started on that. Take care, everybody. Have a great week, and we will see you next week for Make It Monday. Thank you. Bye-bye.